I got exposed to this idea of critique of beauty in my university days, and where I came to know about the social constructivist theory, and that gender is a social construct and beauty is a social construct. And it's been around 10 years, and I remember after that I changed a lot of things about in my lifestyle. I stopped buying stylish clothes or purchasing beautiful cosmetic products and doing makeup and all. So I was just thinking that that was my beginning of change of an attitude towards beauty for me. But since I'm familiar with phenomenology, and so now I understand that the beauty is much larger than cosmetic products and appearance. So it needs to be reworked on, redefined. So that is my attempt today to redefine beauty. And the questions that I'll be addressing in the presentation is, how does a psychologist understand or engage with the idea of beauty? And so there's some schools of thought in psychology. Where is this beauty placed? In our brain, in our mind, or as a construct that is there in society, or as in an object or in a person? What is the place of beauty? So that the place is the phenomenology. And beauty in an aging body, because here I teach the course on aging, so I also see things from the perspective of aging. So, and it's a disclaimer, the last two, three slides are about illness and death. So few of you are familiar with those topics, but for others, it will be good to know. Okay, so this is a general Google definition of beauty, and which is a quality that gives a person pleasure experience via sight, hearing, or even taste. Aesthetics is a branch of philosophy that deals with the appreciation of beauty. But beauty is usually produced by nature or some art, including painting and sculpture, right? So I'll be talking about these, how different sensations and sensory modalities in relation with beauty, and also I'll also bring aesthetics, and then I'll move on to understanding beauty in different ways, other different ways. But first of all, we have to talk from the social constructivist theory, right? Because that is the most dominant understanding of beauty. The object of beauty is mostly seen in a woman, a feminine woman, and in a particular way. So there is outer body appearance, and starting from head to toe, each body part is subjected to whether it is beautiful or not, right? Hair, for example, black women and hair. Curly hair is good or straight or not. Less hair or more hair, right? The structure of hair, color of hair, facial features, eyes. So now there are Chinese women who are enlarging their eyes because bigger eyes is more beautiful, right? So the nose, the plastic surgery, Botox, face, lips, each and everything. Your skin, and then your body size. If you're too thin, you're fragile. If you're too fat, you're obese. And or you try to aspire to be a certain size, which leads to anorexia. So it's very dangerous, and the illness is very close to beauty, right? If you have too many body marks, are these too many different things? Is beauty isolated from, is there something called a normal body? Yeah, and there is this scholar, which is Clark and Griffin. She has talked about these separate body parts with respect to their phenomenology and social constructivist understanding and interpretation of beauty. And of course, like there is, so white is good, white is beautiful, and so many. So evolutionary psychology and evolutionary theory has hugely justified this beauty standards. We need to have certain physical features in order for women to reproduce, but it is hugely biased theory. And so we need to do critical evolutionary theory, because there are so many cultures and so many different kind of body sizes and facial features and everything, and everybody is reproducing. All the women of all the cultures are reproducing. So the evolutionary theory is very wrong. Yeah, I mean, there are all kind of beauty related practices. Beauty parlors are there. Women going all of us have gone for threading and different spa, all these kind of things we go for, right? I mean, it's also for relaxation. It is for a certain, to look in a certain way, for a certain experience that we want when we go out in the evening. But how much is it actually, there is also a limit to that, because it can also go beyond a certain level. And of course, there is a huge heteronormativity. when it comes to beauty. So women and dressing up and appearance and the notion of body is for certain male gaze, for a certain kind of male and male and female relationship. And of course, there is a huge capital industry in it. All the cosmetic products that are sold in the malls, it's all, it's a whole market industry. It's not necessarily to make us look, it's not for us, it's for them. Then there is also intersectionality, right? Because it's, for example, white women, and so there can also be a white gaze. So what kind of laborer body is that? Can that be also seen as beautiful? For a higher class woman, a laborer body could be seen as desirable. So there are multiple elements in which we can assess who is the perceiver and who is the perceived as a beauty object. Other than outer body, there is also inner body and micro body functions. For example, silence and shyness as traits in women particularly, which are desirable for them to be appeared as beautiful. So silent women, shy women, suppressed women, and submissive women, they're seen as more beautiful. Bold women are not. And there's a literature by Simone de Beauvoir and other feminist phenomenologists like Iris Young who have written more about this, body language and women everyday life and how that relates with beauty. Okay, so now we'll talk about different art forms, and dance is one of them. And recently the dance that I saw in the fest, that also made me have some insight on this. And so there is this rasa theory that explains the dance form. Psychology brings that rasa theory of emotions. So the certain body movements along with the cultural dance form, along with certain emotions, make this performative art of dance. So that is one explanation. Then there is also Gestalt school of thought, which talks about, so there is a certain synchronicity in the body movements that is making us see this picture as beautiful. If the movements were haywire, then it may not have been so pleasant to look at. So this, the laws of perception are there, and symmetry and synchronicity. So there are patterns in the visual field which are more appealing. And then we see that as a beautiful object or as a aesthetic body of object. Pregnance is a good figure. So this can be seen as a good figure, as a beautiful figure. And then when it comes to performative arts, there is this also theory given by Leder. It's information processing model, and it talks about various stages of evaluation of a performative art and how we process step by step. There is analysis, then it relates with our previous memory of that object, and there's integration of that information, the classification of the objects in the visual field, cognitive mastering. Cognitive mastering in evaluation is about whether a naive person and an expert in that performative art field can make a distinction between whether this is a good art or not. So is this a good art form? What is the expertise in this art form? Or a photograph, whatever it can be, a different kind of form. So yeah, that is the extension of the cognitive psychology theory by Leder that talks about the beauty and aesthetics. Then there are other explanations. Projection is one common term in psychology. So this picture I took a lot of years back, and so it's a small girl. And so what makes us see this picture as beautiful? What is beautiful in this picture? Smile, right? So the child smiling, a girl child is smiling. So is it that information processing model, Gestalt theory or social constructivist theory? Can you make links now? How do we understand if this picture is beautiful? What makes us see the smile as beautiful? Does any of that previous theories fit in understanding if this picture or the smiling child is beautiful? Maybe not a direct correlation, right? So here this is more about the person, the child, and the smile. So this is, Gestalt would explain this as, whole is more than sum of its parts, right? So it is a whole picture of the child, and a smiling child is of value. It is really, it's a human figure also. So there is also projection happening in the way that we are able to empathize. Smile and human is smiling, so there is also mirror neurons, right? So we are immediately projecting that, okay, we are also smiling looking at the picture. So this is one understanding of beauty appreciation or art appreciation. Yeah, so Lips is one person who gave this concept of Junflung. It means empathy, but the other people also have talked about projection. So yeah, this is the Gestalt very popular figure ground principle, right? So this, even here you can see either the faces or the vase, but the picture is the same, but your perception may differ, and it will keep shifting if it's a face or if it's a vase. From one time to another, your perception of this image will shift. Similarly, in this image, the figure of the child is standing against the background, because the background is not so catchy, so we are looking at this child. If there was something more catchy in the background, then we would look at that image. Okay, there are other sensory modalities, food for example, and this is, recently I cherished this starter in a Thai restaurant, and so psychophysical theory can explain this as an absolute threshold or minimum threshold. If there was too much sweet or salt in any of these things, then I wouldn't have enjoyed it in the same way, right? So, and we also get adapted to some sensations, because an infant is not able to enjoy all the taste, but it gets adapted to certain tastes while growing up. So this is a basic sensory understanding of, sensation-based understanding of beauty and aesthetics. But vision is very important when we talk about seeing and beauty, because it's a very most common understanding that beauty is appreciated through our eyes, through our vision. But how far is it true? For people who cannot see, are they not able to see beauty at all? Are they not able to appreciate beauty? Right? It's not true. Socrates also said that true knowledge is beyond the senses. So there is something more to beauty than the vision. There is also in functional school of thought and psychology, there is John Dewey, and he has written this book, Art is an Experience. And he talks about how doing and perceiving are integrated with the other. And here I have this example of this Sher, ghazal by Mirza Ghalib, and which says, मोहब्बत में नहीं है फ़र्क जीने और मरने का, उसी को देख कर जीते हैं जिस काफिर पर दम निकले. Right? So, and the English translation goes like this: the difference between living and dying lies not in love. I live for that heretic who breaks me down. So what is beautiful in this poem? The unsaid, okay, the unsaid. Yeah, it is a thought, and the unsaid, the presence and absence dynamics is also there, right? But you no need to say the whole statement to express the same thought, but you saying it in a different way in which there is some hiddenness of thought as well. So, but the point that I want to make in connection with this integration of doing and perceiving is that when we read this poem, do we just leave that behind there? Maybe not, because it is something, maybe it gives us some insight about our own life. So it changes us. So we are not just perceiving, but that perceiving, the act of perceiving is also perceiving us, is also doing something to us. So it's a bi-directional relationship. And reception is not seen as a passive act. That is the point. This is the most important aspect, that it is our engagement with this world, with the world, is not one directional. It is bi-directional. When we are perceiving a form of beauty, it is also perceiving us back. It is also changing us in some way. So, I mean, John Dewey introduced this concept of experience and this non-duality, non-dual ways of understanding things. So this is Marina Beach, and so what is beautiful in this picture, or when you visit a beach, where does beauty lie there? The water? What? The memories. Yes, yes, correct. Okay, that's one good answer. The memories of when you visited there. That's what occurs to you when you look at this picture. Okay, but when you're there, can we really point out that it is just water? that is making that's the form of beauty, or is it sea, is it sand, is it the sky, is it the vast sky, is it the horizon, what is it? Is it the seashells? All of them working all together, all of these objects working together, and is giving us this experience of, it can be any experience, it can be peace, relaxation, happiness, joy. So that that emotional state, affective state is a result of combination of these factors. Gestalt can explain this through the concept of horizon, farness and nearness. But there are other aspects also in this, right? Like you said that there is memory of the past. So why did I take this picture? I took this picture so that someday I can, why do we take photographs? So that we can also cherish this at some point later in our life. So there is also this element of my existence in the future. This interaction of past and present and future is another element to when we understand beauty. We'll talk more about that past and temporality, because we are also talking of Martin Heidegger, German philosopher, who has written this wonderful book, Being and Time, and his method was phenomenological, hermeneutic, existential way. He also rejected the subject-object split, right? So subject-object split is what started with Descartes in psychology, but also its origin is in Kant and Aristotle. But from phenomenology, Husserl, the founder of phenomenology, he rejected this division of mind or body or subject and object, and he said that it's all together. And perceiver is perceived, right? So, and beauty is simultaneously in us and the object. So we would say that it is the beauty in us that makes us see the beauty outside. Again, the concept of projection. And being in the world is the main phrase that Heidegger uses. What does that mean? Again, one more picture of perimeter. So I will have more pictures of the university during my walks in the past 3 months. And what did I find beautiful in this site? Is it the tree? Is it the ducks, the water? All of it together again, right? So I can't really segregate the object of beauty, and I was also part of it. Because at that moment, I was not a separate person, but I was part of that nature who was experiencing things in the simultaneous way. This temporality can also be seen in appreciation of music as an art form. And Husserl talks about how consciousness must be structured to enable us to hear a melody. When we listen to a song, we have a memory of what this song is about, and we also have an anticipation of what is going to come next. So this interplay of past, present, and future, and the thrill that it gives us, the memory, the enjoyment of the memory of the past, and the anticipation and thrill of what is going to come next, the interplay of this is what creates a cohesive experience of memory, a temporal entity. This is just an example of how past, present, and future, it's all together. What we are today, because there's a lot of talk in these days about mindfulness, how you should just learn to be in the present, and but Heidegger would say that it's not possible to be in the present. We are constantly in the past and future, because we are a product of past and we are moving towards future. That is what projection, according to Heidegger, is. Our present act is always moving towards the future. Now, after this talk, you always already have in mind what you're going to do after this talk. And what is that future? Is it only today? Is it only tomorrow, or 1 month, or 1 year, or 5 years? The ultimate future is death. So it is the backward stepping that we unconsciously do. We already know that we are going to die, and sometimes, a lot of times, we are in denial. But in our mind, the goals that we are setting is with this perspective of our death. Okay, I mean, again, very beautiful, one of my favorite pictures, this book with roses. So what is beautiful in this? Is it the rose, or is it the vintage feel to it, right? So vintage is the past, right? It's a construct. Yeah, vintage beauty, and the fragrance of this book will be so amazing. There is also future. After looking at this picture, I feel this desire of getting away and just reading a book like that somewhere, right? So that what is making it beautiful is not this particular object, this paper and the book, but also myself and my past and present and future. It is also about my idea of the book and my lived experience. So phenomenology, what is it? It's a 20th century approach that focuses on phenomena, what we perceive and experience, rather than the reality of things. There is no objective world. It is nothing like reality exists out there, but everything is perceived and experienced. Yeah, so I mean there are three main scholars in phenomenology: Husserl, Heidegger, and Merleau Ponty. Husserl talked about transcendental consciousness, that to learn to see things the way they are, right? But Heidegger says that we can never actually come out of ourselves and learn to see things the way they are. So all kind of empirical researches that happen, that this is how things are, this is what this person is like, this is what mind is like, that's all false according to Heidegger, because it says like we are like a glass, water in a glass, which can atoms of water in the glass, which can never be taken out. We are always being in the world. We are always a part of the world and never be taken out. So we cannot really analyze or interpret anything. So it explains the subjectivities and the context and embodiment and everything. So like Descartes said that I think, therefore I am, right? But Merleau Ponty said that it's not think, it's I can with my body. So it's all about my body. What can I do? What can my body do is what I am. So body subject is very important for Merleau Ponty to understand human experience. Lived experience, first person perspective, embeddedness, situatedness, embodiment. This is a very common terminology in phenomenology. Okay, I mean, don't want to repeat much, but this is the same. I think it's clear. We've already talked about it. There is a phenomenal field which works against the background. Okay, so this through this example, now this is again a perimeter picture. Perception is situated at dynamic motion. Now, can you tell me if this is sunrise or sunset? Because I don't remember when I took this picture, in the morning or evening. How do you say that?
Because in this particular place, the sunset happens
okay.
Like when you're standing, it's on your right.
Okay.
And the sun.
Yeah. So thanks for telling me that and reminding me that yes, mostly I've gone for morning walks than evening walks, because I didn't remember, and that is a good explanation, a good example to explain what I want to say. This image is beautiful because the sun was on the left side in the morning, and I was standing towards this side where sun was on my left, and I could take this picture. If there was no sun, if this was west, then the picture wouldn't have been so beautiful. So it is this is the concept of orientation, the left, which Merleau Ponty talks about. Left and right is not happening in an objective way, but according to positioning of my body, where I am standing. So I can, from where can I look at sunrise and take a picture, is the concept of embodiment. And of course, it is pre-reflective, means that my mind is not analyzing at that moment whether this is a object of beauty or not. That there is a sun, there is water body, and there is a lake, and I should take a picture. No, it's already out there. The beauty is already there in the world, and so the understanding of beauty in the mind is there in the world, not within me. So how I perceive it is, I'm not perceiving it from bottom up approach, but it is a more wider top bottom approach, you can say. We come to a bit of like critical phenomenology, because you see that I was able to enjoy that sunrise and take that picture, because not everybody will be able to enjoy. Many of you will be sleeping, so you will not be able to enjoy. But also the guard outside that area who cannot go there for a sunrise because he has his duty at that time, right? So there is it's a matter of privilege also to be able to enjoy beauty. And people living in cities, right? In cities like Delhi, they can't see sunrise and sunsets because it's so crowded, so many buildings are there. So polluted, yeah. Sri City is a place to enjoy beauty. Okay, there are other social factors also. For example, caste and manual scavenging. So there are some professions where there is no beauty at all, right? And so how do we understand beauty from the perspective of body is not from the perspective of identity. Of course, this is a marginalized community and their identities are very suppressed and they can't enjoy beauty. But from the Merleau Ponty perspective, we will understand from body habits, time, place, balance, right? Body schema. So what is a body doing on everyday basis? Where is it going? What work is it doing? Is it going to a mall and a spa or a parlor and getting, you know, or a woman sitting in front of a laptop and working? Or is it going to the pitch and, you know, doing these hazardous jobs? And especially, and also like laborers who get up, women who get up early in the morning to do first their own household chores, then somebody else's household chores. Where is beauty in their life? So it depends on what is their routine. Are they getting time in between to relax? And relaxation leads to some aspects of beauty, right? Are they getting time in between? Are they getting enough food? Is their body getting enough food? So what is the everyday world of people and how is their body engaging with the outside world? What is the work that their body is doing? Tells us any aspect and the aspect of beauty as well. So Great Indian Kitchen is a good example of the film, where that woman is throughout the days or in the kitchen doing the dishes, cooking food. So the concept of labor is important to understand to talk about beauty. Time, place, balance is, 6 o'clock we get up and do yoga and our body is doing yoga and that becomes a set, that this slot, this is what we do. Then we get ready and all, at 10 o'clock we go for work. This is what we do from 10 to 5. Our body is walking from our home to office and working there. So it's a different set routines. So what the body is doing at a particular time. Right? That's why the concept of vacation comes. In vacation, the time, place, balance change. That's what we like. That's why we relax on weekends or on vacations, because our body is doing different things on the same time. Yes.
I had a question. We're talking, before this we were discussing how we project and whatever. I mean, beauty is subjective. For example, the example of how somebody wakes up and does their own household chores and then goes on to a different house to do their chores. So, if that is what they find beautiful, like working hard all the time and not giving yourself time for a vacation, if that is beautiful to them, then I mean, how do we decide if they're perceiving beauty or not? Like, in that it all does come down to what we project and what we think kind of beauty is, right? So how do these different theories?
Yeah, so you're talking about subjectivity, and I can explain this through the meaning-making process. That is one perspective. I mean, if they are able to see beauty in everyday work, I mean, we also do that, right? But the concept of alienation is also there, right? House helps, they do work in others' houses, but they are not allowed to be touched, for example. They are not allowed to touch anything. They're not allowed to enter certain spaces. They're not allowed to eat the food that they are cooking. So the Marxist concept of alienation is important to understand whether hard work is really seen as beautiful or not. I'm sure this manual scavengers don't really enjoy their work. So is there, yeah, but of course, like we also do meaning making and find beauty in everyday world. So I'm sure there is some space for that, but yeah. Yeah, so this is again like touch is another sensation, and Merleau Ponty gives interesting perspective on touch. It says that when we are touching something, we are also being touched. Right? It says when I touch my right hand with my left hand together, the object right hand also has this strange property itself of sensing. Two hands are never simultaneously both touched and touching. So when I press my two hands together, it is not a question of two sensations that I could feel together, as when we perceive two objects juxtaposed, but instead of an ambiguous organization where the two hands can alternate between the functions of touching and touched. But so Sundar Sarokar talks in his article, Phenomenology of Touch, about Dalits, and the phenomenology of touch in Dalits. It is not just the Dalit who is not touched, but also the Brahmins who stay, who don't want to be touched as well. They don't want to touch the Dalits, but they also don't want to be touched. So it's a mutual process. It's not one way, it's a mutual process. But what are the kind of bodies that allow touch and what bodies don't allow touch? Gendered bodies, trans bodies, disgust. There are emotions related to that's the politics of emotions, right? There are emotions associated with things like touch as well. So there is lizard, right? We don't allow lizard to touch our body. Sorry, I should have given a disclaimer. Yeah.
How would you place the body of a sex worker in this touch? And well, first of all, like you've written contact versus touch, which is actually, if you look at the cast and body, like I see that it's more so that you should not come in contact with them, be it physical or spatial contact.
Yes. Yeah, I think Martin Buber will give an answer to this. He talks about this relationality, the concept of relationality, I versus it. How do we relate with the world? Human versus another human, or human versus object. Now, even with a tree, we can see a tree also as human, giving it humanly like affect and feelings. But we can also see human as an object. So that the difference between contact and touch is that. So sexual workers, it's contact, not really touch. It's it. The body is objectified and reduced to an object often. I mean, COVID was a good example of when we became aware of the importance of our body, right? Because then we were very aware of what we can touch and what we cannot touch. Because touch could be very dangerous, touching objects, touching other people. So Heidegger talks about this concept of transparent coping. We are always in a mode of transparent coping. Now I'm walking ahead and then I'll walk back, but suddenly suppose this slide goes off. Then my attention will totally be on that. So right now this is transparent coping. So we pay attention to things only when they break down. So during COVID, our bodies actually broke down in a way that we cannot function. They cannot be functioned in the usual way that we can go anywhere outside, we can sit anywhere, we can touch anything. So the brokenness in that aspect, it doesn't happen, brokenness doesn't happen only mentally, but it happens through body. Okay, now I'll talk about I'll move to the third part of the presentation, which is aging body. And Sartre is also considered as existential phenomenologist, and he's given a general phenomenological framework for understanding human experience. He talks about 3 orders of body. And so first order is the body for itself. So for example, when an older woman, older people generally don't like to take sticks, even when they are, it's difficult for them to walk. So why do they avoid taking sticks? Because there is this identity that they'll be seen as old and helpless and weak, right? But then when this old woman learns to take a stick, it becomes a core part of her. When she's talking about her every day to somebody, it will come that I went for a walk, but that went for a walk happened along with the stick. So where does this woman starts and ends her whole experience? Her stick is also core part of her, right? And one day when she doesn't take a stick, she will not feel okay, because it has become such a core part of her. So that is what it means by body for itself. Body for the other means that, so for example, when we go for a medical examination and the same old woman goes for a medical examination or refuses to go for it, is because her body will be objectified by a doctor. The doctor will be able to see the inner body parts that she cannot, and she will feel alienated from her own body. So it is not a body for herself, it is a body for the doctor, for the other. And that is what happens when we talk about objectification of body. It is not but somebody else is seeing that part of me that I am not able to. It is for the other person, not me. So when we dress up and all in front of the mirror, are we doing it for ourselves or for the other? For which gaze are we doing it? That is the third point. Body for itself as known by the other. Right? We have an idea of what we are perceived by the outer world, and according to that, we shape our body like that. So the same example of this older woman, why does she not take the stick is also because she feels the emotion of shame. So when she's alone, maybe she'll be okay with taking the stick. But when it is about going out in the public, she will experience shame. So because others will see her in a particular way that she doesn't want to be seen. And this of course has a larger connotation of how older population and aging population is seen as lesser and weaker. That's why the old woman is feeling these things that she's feeling. If they're not seen weaker, then she may not feel inhibited. There's also this, and I've discussed this in class also, this article, the ways of masking. There are multiple ways in which we mask our age. It is not just cosmetic products. It is also pharmaceuticals, medicines. When we try to hide our illness, for example, and even body scars, even headache. We don't want to appear as that are, as a weak brain or a weak nerve muscles in our body. Why are we always, even a smile? We have we may have depression, we may be in low mood, but why do we smile? It's all about hiding. And with age, the problems in the body increase. So that's why there is constantly the effort to hide that aging in different ways. There's now more and more work getting done in this area. You'll say that even there can be beauty and aesthetics in illness as well. There's sociological and philosophical researches in this area, how there is aesthetic of illness, narrative, horror, and sublime. Okay, so this is my father, and he has dementia. And I've already given a lecture on dementia in my class. So I'll just say 1 or 2 points that dementia is seen as a mental illness, but of course there's discrimination against mentally ill people, that Alzheimer's and dementia are mentally ill, so they don't know this and they don't remember and all that. But what is the illness? What is the beauty in his illness? Is there a beauty in his illness? So there is also, he doesn't, because of dementia, he doesn't remember his pain. And that actually is a blessing in disguise. And so he has some moments in the day where he thinks that he went out for a walk today, or he is able to sing a song, and he's very joyful in that moment. So there is wellness in illness. And this person, Harvey Carvel, has written a book on this this topic, wellness within illness. And it's important to talk about this, because since the time we are born, we are also acquiring illnesses, right? This illness is an existential reality, just like death. So why should we not talk about illness when we talk about beauty? It comes along with that. We are all ill in one or the other way, mentally ill, physically ill, some small illness, and on everyday basis or long-term basis. It's more and more time to talk about these things. So instead of pathophobic view, there needs to be a pathophilic view of illness, which is more positive view of illness. Yeah, this is, I think, my second last slide. Being towards death. So death is also an existential reality, and it's related with beauty, right? Because the concept of beauty that limits itself to woman's body or cosmetics, it's not allowing us to live a fuller life, because beauty is much larger a concept than that. It's an experience. So there is this ghazal again, Zindagi se badi saza hi nahi, aur kya jurm hai pata hi nahi, by Krishna Bihari Noor, and it translates as, there is no sentence harsher than life, and on top of that, for what crime? Translated by Samir Thomas. So there is this, death is also beautiful, right? Death brings closure. And there are people who are extremely sick. There is euthanasia, passive euthanasia. We are still putting people in ICUs for the sake of their physical body, even then when there is no life. Why are we doing that? It's a whole pharmaceutical hospital industry which pushes us to do this, because we are not able to process our grief of losing them, right? So we need to talk about death and overcome this denial of death culture that we have. Okay. So from ontology, we move to epistemology. From knowing the nature of things, we move to how do we know what we know? How do we know about beauty? what we know. So far what we know of beauty and from psychological perspective is Cartesian perspective, right? And there are empirical researches that people who are ugly, what is their mental state, I don't know, and you'll find a lot of researches on that without questioning terminologies and things like that. So we need to move on a more phenomenological, non-dualistic ways of understanding beauty. We also need to critique experimental approach and psychophysics, cause and effect researches, like researches like aging actresses have more depression. It's a very empty argument. New non-dualistic approaches will include discourses for thinking about perception, critical phenomenology, not just phenomenology, but critical phenomenology, inquiry and existential ontology, lived experience, body and space of beauty or any other phenomena. Okay, so last slide is this summary. So what is the place of beauty? How do we understand and after all of this? It's not just in the aesthetic object that lies outside. It is more a non-dualistic way. It's a bidirectional process, experiential based. Perceiver is the perceived. We understand beauty from the perspective of body and orientation, body subject, body schema, body habits, and also through time, our existence and being towards death. And in an aging perspective, we need to also bring things like aging, illnesses to understand beauty. Yeah, that's all. These are my references.